This
Okay.
conference will now be recorded.
Okay. The notice,
Okay.
this is the March 5th meeting of the Shade Tree Commission of the Township of Ocean. The notice requirements of the open public meeting law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual notice was sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster, posted in Town Hall and filed in the office of the Township Clerk on June 23rd, 2025. This meeting will be recorded and available on Ocean Township's YouTube channel. So to start with, we'll do a roll call. Should have done that first probably. Chairperson Colton is here. Members Kronheim, Gaudette,
Here.
Gordon,
Here.
Kearns, we'll go through that. Lutz, Ken sent a thing saying he was in traffic.
Yeah, I saw that.
Armstrong, okay, he may have had the same problem because I spoke to him today. And Councilwoman Talarico joining us.
I'm here. Thank you.
Hi. And okay, that being said, we'll may as well start with the usual tree report. Bill Brooks can't join us tonight,
No,
but he did.
the minutes.
Oh, the minutes. We that past them already. Okay, yeah, minutes for approval. Okay, well, on top of that, my printer wouldn't let me print until about 5 minutes before, so I haven't had a chance to read the minutes myself.
Do you want to table it until next month?
I finally got it to print out, so
Yeah, we
we
could do
can.
I wasn't there, so it doesn't matter.
Right. So it would be and Moshe wasn't there at the last meeting either.
Right. Okay.
So do you want to table it?
We'll table the approval of the minutes until our next meeting.
Okay.
I wonder what the next thing is that's not going to work on my computer.
You.
Oh, that's constant. I don't count that one.
Okay.
Okay. So so Bill couldn't be here, but he did leave send in a written thing to note about applications that he would have seen. So it says there was a moderate amount of, first he's saying there was a moderate amount of tree damage associated with the blizzard of 26. This is mainly confined to conifers such as white pine, white spruce, Leland cypress, and several other species of firs. And I saw that on my own street. There was also a significant amount of damage done to deciduous hardwoods that had structural deficiencies that had not been addressed or corrected. The damage to the conifers was both total failure at grade, which means selling on a tree, and limb loss due to the heavy snow loads. Damage to deciduous trees was mostly major limb or leader failure due to structural deficiencies in the tree, which were exacerbated by the heavy snow load. So that, that it wasn't even snow, right? It was that freezing rain that really did that stuff to us. And he also noted that there has been a marked increase in tree removal applications for construction projects that he sees, which means those are ones that are not part of board applications. And the vast majority of these are for new swimming pool construction. Although I'm pretty sure no one's going to be going swimming for at least a few weeks. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the Community Forestry Management Plan. So we spent a lot of time on that. And as it turns out, we had our Community Forestry Management Plan. First, it was reviewed, came back in for additional changes and comments due to their comments. We put the comments back in, and the management plan was approved. And there's a thing that goes out to all the towns from, community forestry and the DEP. And in the very first paragraph of that, they noted a few towns that had their CFMP approved, and we were one of the ones that got listed. All I can say to that is whoopee. Okay, better that we have it approved, and we can, that's a hurdle that we can get rid of. We don't have to get a new one for another 5 years. Well, actually, it's more like 4 years, because the first year of the plan is technically the year that you write it. So I've got that. Anyway, hold on a sec. Be right back. I'll call you later. Okay, so So the next thing is the planning committee that Patty usually gives a report, but Patty is not here yet. Hopefully she'll join us, so we don't have that. The next one on this is the New Jersey Urban Community Forestry continuing education units. So each year we always wind up at the end of the year, even though we only need to get 8 CEUs across, at least 2 people total have to get some kind of CEU. So one guy could get 7, one guy could get 1. We sort of dawdle on that, okay? But there was actually one I didn't get a chance to do, but there was actually one today. But the 2 that are easiest to get are, one is called something like Urban Forestry Today, which comes out of the University of Massachusetts. And the other one is from New Jersey Forestry Association or something like that, called Backyard Forestry or something like that. Anyway, I'll send out, when I get the little notices of these things, I'll send them out. And if anyone can get a chance to do them, the ones from Massachusetts are at lunchtime, which makes them pretty convenient. They're 1-hour things, whereas the other ones, I think sometimes, which are on the 3rd week of the month, I think, or whatever else, or for maybe a little bit longer than that. Okay. And then the next thing I have is that just on the agenda right now is that the New Jersey Urban and Community Forestry Annual Report is something that had to be submitted, and I submitted that successfully before February 14th or something like that. So that's those are the main things that were on the agenda. So we sort of whipped through things pretty quickly today. But there's other things that we have to discuss, okay? So one of the things is, and Gene Armstrong's not here right now, but one of the things that's happened on the commission is that Jack Kearns, whose term was up in January, was not renewed. So we have an actual opening on the Shade Tree Commission. And I'm expecting that Gene, who's their alternate, would fill that space. So until we can figure out what's going on there, people can make suggestions on who they would recommend to fill either a seat on the commission or or become an alternate. So we have that as a thing to concern ourselves with. So somebody just open the floor then to any of the members. Have anything else worth mentioning? Probably a few things will pop into my head as usual, but anyone else have something they want to address specifically? Okay, that said, another one of the things that we have to look into, as we've talked about many times, has to do with the issues of shade trees and that are on, in the town's right of way, but in front of people's homes and so on and so forth. And the question is whether that's the responsibility of the homeowner or the township. Okay, in our township, the ordinance states that that's the funding. The town's supposed to do that work, but then bill the people whose house it's in, it sits in front of. Okay, so I've been threatening to send out a list of how to contact people in all the different towns in Monmouth County, and I'm gonna. I found again where I stashed the list. I'm gonna send that out to everybody. I'm gonna ask everyone to ask for volunteers to make some calls and determine how many towns do it our way and how many towns have full total complete control and responsibility for using the right of way with the township. Bill Brooks made a few calls related to that also, and I'll get his specific data also. So Okay, so let's talk about a couple other things then. One of the things that we usually do, and I guess I'm going to send this around also, but every year we give out seedlings, right? The third graders get seedlings, and historically they were free from the state and so on and so forth. I'm not sure that they've renewed that program, but I've got to find out. And the other one is the township has purchased seedlings that we give away sometime around Earth Day. Looking at the list of seedlings, the New Jersey State Forestry Nursery in Jackson, every year they grow a whole lot of seedlings. And usually they have a very nice selection of trees to pick from. Last year we had about 5 or 6 different trees that we ordered from them that we gave out. Okay. This year the only tree that they have in that program is Quercus rubra, the northern red oak, which is the state tree. And that makes a nice tree. Although Bill Brooks tells me that there's 2 basic oak families, red oak and white oak families. That different oaks are gathered together in those groupings. Must be similarities they have. And the red oak family has been having problems with something called bacterial wilt. So maybe in the long run, that may not be the best tree to be planting. So that's one thing to think about. Then they also do have, though, a certain quantity, although I see when I looked at it the other day, it's diminishing. They have those little tubing things, okay? And so that may be what we have to go with those things, or maybe we can find, that's from the state's forestry nursery. There may be some other nurseries that do seedlings. There's one I found in South Jersey that we got some things from a few years ago. And I'll see what the story is, or whether there's anything for the third graders. But I thought they told me not, but then I saw something that talked about something like that when I was looking just 2 days ago, and I've got to call the nursery to ask what's going on. Oops. What just happened? Can't touch it. Can't touch anything on the computer these days. Okay, so let me just say this: nursery. Okay. Okay, so that's something now. So that means that when we do give out the trees, usually the garden club supports that, but any of the other members that have come on have been helpful too. So you got to figure that that's mostly going to be around Earth Day, which is the last Friday in April, I think, or something like that. So probably be the Sunday after that is the most likely date that we would do that.
Sunday after Earth Day?
Yeah, that's like 2 days after Earth Day.
Okay.
Now it all depends. Now it depends where we get the trees, because the forestry nursery, when they do certain things, they sort of distribute things up to a certain date and then they stop. Okay. However, I know that then it's just a question of finding a refrigerator to put things in if they're bare root seedlings. Now the tubelings can be watered more easily, so that might not be so terrible either. But I know that I had some seedlings from one of the previous things that I left in my refrigerator in the basement, my spare refrigerator, and they were still good, when I potted them up in August or something like that. That's how they grow them. I think they grow them through the, they get them in the winter and they sort them out. I'm not sure when they actually harvest them, but they keep them in a giant refrigerator, all through the season, through the winter. And one of the things that they do is that helps with that, I think, is they actually dip the roots in one of these polymeric gels, sort of keeps the moisture on the roots so that they're not just totally dried up like it would be if you picked something out of the ground, threw it on the ground, and it'd be totally dried up a couple of days later.
Norm,
Yes.
question,
Excuse me?
would that be okay? Can I ask a question?
Yeah, anyone can.
Okay, great. The question is, I know we brought this up last meeting, but is there any way, instead of like giving out the seedlings or the saplings at, like Earth Day events, if we can get like social media, we could put out there, you know how they do it with like St. Patrick's Day or any other event. If you're coming to it, you can sign up. So the resident would have a email, and they could send an email and say, yes, I would like to be on the list to receive one of those trees. And then we would know like an estimate of how many people, would, of the residents in town that would like a tree. And that would give us more of an idea of how many. And then we could also give them out at the event. And that way we'd be able to see if there's more people would want a tree. I don't know if that's.
I think that trying to do that like already a month ago or so, before we even ordered them, might be a little difficult,
But I know on social media, the Municipal Ocean Township website, they put up stuff all the time, and even like the rec center and human services, and they get a good amount of response. So I was just wondering if that might be something that would be helpful, because then maybe the residents would hear about it more and then sign up, and more trees could be distributed. But I think it's like, what would we do that? I mean, I could talk to our town manager, but when would be the best time for that to occur? Like a month before?
Well, for example, I noticed that already they only were growing about 7 varieties, 3 of which were pines. Okay. And except for the pines, almost everything else is already gone. Not available. Like they had red buds. If you move the red buds, got the nice pink flowers around it before the dogwoods do, and so on and so forth. Those are no longer available, and so on and so forth. So it gets tight with ordering. As a matter of fact, we probably should have ordered something already. But
okay.
So that gets hard to do, and the response. I mean, we get a reasonable number of people that do come, but it's not as great as we've had in some other years, But
could we put this maybe, I don't know, for next year or maybe in the fall? I don't know the planting schedules, but I do know that if we put it out there to the residents and said, we have a month, we're going to collect names, addresses, phone numbers. If you would like a tree, I think there would be a lot more response.
Yeah, we're gonna remember these trees. You gotta remember these trees are 10 inches tall. Okay, they're just
I know.
And we gave out. People took home 5 or more various trees. Of course we got. And last year we didn't. We still had plenty left over. And some got potted up, and some, would just eventually. It was so long I was gonna, was holding on to some of them, but it's a good program, and I'm not sure we've got who's the manpower. We can ask people to volunteer to sort all these things out, but so far there's only been me and maybe some of the garden club members that are working this issue.
Okay, so I guess my last question would be: is there a way to find out how many we would be able to receive?
Well, we can get as many as we want to purchase. That's what we did last year. We purchased, I think, let's see, the schools, we purchased about 300 and something for the schools. And then I think we purchased another 300 to distribute, and we distributed maybe 200 or so that distributed, if that, on the day we were giving them out. I don't know if we gave that many out this year. For some reason, the day we were giving them out was not a pleasant day. It turned out it wasn't rainy, but it was it was not, it was cool and not particularly pleasant.
We know how much we purchased.
Steve, you got to be a little louder, Steve. I can't hear you. I can't make you out.
We've got some history. We know how much we purchased and about how many were left over. So we can sort of figure what we need from there.
Right.
Because just thought, but I know if there was a running list of like, hey, we have 50 residents that would like a tree, then maybe we could add the 50 onto, the 500 that you're ordering. It's just a thought.
Well, I think, no, what I'm saying is if 50 extra more people had come, we would have had trees for them. So it wasn't a thing. We tried to do it. Maybe it's a little overkill even, but we had whatever varieties we had. When the people came, they had a picture of what that tree's going to look like, and then information about the tree and so on and so forth, which we put up as a big, like a big poster kind of a thing. And so it's generally been reasonable. It's just a question of the day, and who can make it. But it's not like we ran out of trees and people left disappointed.
I totally hear what you're saying. I'm just saying for people that can't make it to that event, like how would they be able to receive the trees if we don't have like a running list or an email that they can send their request to?
Well, the question is who's going to handle all of that?
Who's going to deliver it?
Well, I mean, I could definitely ask Dave Brown, who could do that. It would be one simple email, and anybody that would want a tree would just send an email to that,
No,
email address.
I'm talking about when the people come to get their tree, when they decide they want it on Thursday, the such and such, who's going to be manning the trees.
Oh, I could ask Dave Brown if you'd like. I mean, it's up to you guys. I'm just
Who's
offering
this?
suggestions.
Chris, I think I don't know. I think it's a good idea to ask how many people want to, so we can make sure that they know when it's happening. Because usually what happens is I run out to the forestry nursery sometime in the middle of the week. I get the trees,
Mm-hmm.
I put them in the refrigerator at the senior center, and then we get them out. We got to get the table set up and all this sort of stuff, which the recreation helps with. The garden club works on it, and that's a lot of work, and it's one day. So I'm not sure what we're going to do on a, it's not like we keep these things just hanging out, so to speak. But I think it's worth possibly putting something out right now to try and solicit how many people are going to be interested, because they may forget about it and so on and so forth. I think that aspect certainly is a good thing, because we post this thing on Ocean Cares, we post it on various other things and so on and so forth.
So would you be the one to send that email, or did you want me to do it?
Who would the email go to?
Well, the email would go to probably Dave Brown, just suggesting, what we're talking about, that we would like the township to send out an email to remind residents that, Earth Day is coming, the event, the date, and if anybody would like a tree, they can pick it up on Earth Day event, and to send your name, just to kind of reserve it. And that way we would get an idea anyway of how many people would be interested in picking up their tree. I know more people would probably come to Earth Day if they knew they reserved a tree.
I don't
Does
know.
the township have a comprehensive list of the emails of all the residents?
Well, we did at the Office of Emergency Management whenever there was an issue that was going on. There was one
I don't know.
email.
I think you should ask the manager if he wants to send an email to everyone in town. That might be a little,
No, it wouldn't be an email.
But I think the town's website itself, and the Shade Tree Commission has its own email that things come to from there. So people could say that they're interested in a tree, and if we have figured out what we're going to be buying at that time, we could possibly add that in there, and then tell them this, when it's going to be available, and so on and so forth.
What if we make sure?
And they could respond back to us, and we'd make sure that those people who did respond, had that variety, assuming we had enough of them. Like last year, the main tree I ordered was white dogwoods.
Right. Do you have an email?
But this year, I don't think they're even available. Excuse me?
Do you have an email? Is that something you would like? Like if they put it up on the town Facebook page, and with your email that you have for the Shade Tree Commission, and then residents respond to your email? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm suggesting we just post it as a
Norm,
Yes, Donna.
may
yes.
I interject here for a moment?
Yeah.
Grace Ann, we have done that in the past where they have reserved a tree and they picked it up at the pickup spot
Event?
where we do, yes, at the pickup event, which when we do, like Norm said, we do it at the senior center and we
Okay.
do it at Greenfest, and then they came to pick it up. The email that it goes to, the Shade Tree Commission email, is monitored by me. It comes to me. So we did get a lot of people. We did get a response, but not everybody showed up that reserved a tree.
Was that a big amount of trees? Was that a large amount?
It was a fairly decent amount, but they registered with me. Norm had the list. Quite a few people showed up, but then again, like I said, a lot of people did not show up to pick up their trees, and we were left with an abundance left over. So,
Okay.
yeah, even when Norm orders the amounts that he orders in previous years, it's publicized pretty well on social media and on our website. And, looking for that response, we still have leftover trees. Not everybody shows up. And it all depends on weather too. If it's nasty out that day and the event's canceled, so then you're stuck with trees and keeping them somewhere, because it's difficult being in the senior center refrigerator because somebody's got to go over there and get them. It's not like
Right.
there's somebody there to pick them up at all times.
No,
There's
they were only kept in a senior refrigerator for days,
right
like from Wednesday to Sunday.
prior to the event.
That's
Yes.
it. We never put
So
it in
storing them is not really feasible.
Yeah.
And then having people come and get them, there's nobody there. Everybody works during the day. So
Right.
we're fortunate to get the volunteers that we get from the garden club and from the commission itself to be there on one day. So
Right. We had extra ones. I kept some. Diane Sermont kept some. Diane Sermont, the garden club, advertised that there were more, that the stuff was still, things were still available, but we still wound up with some that never went. But that's okay. Having too many that you don't give away every one of them is better than not having something for everyone who would want.
right.
I
It
don't-
looks like Stephen wants to speak. He's got his hand raised.
Say that again?
No.
Stephen
I think
Godet
that's-
wants to speak.
Oh, there it is. I've never paid attention to that.
Oh, I never
Steve.
took it down.
Steve, before your arm falls off. Yes, sir.
Let's take it down, but yes, as Donna just said, I mean, we advertise it heavily. It's advertised in the, all of the advertisement that goes out about the event itself. So, and so much weather related, it's a logistical, it can be a logistical nightmare to try to collect a list and make sure that there are people there to distribute.
Yeah, when we do it, let's see, I think we usually say 10 to 2 is what we did last year. And a couple of people showed up like, right before. And after that, after 1 o'clock, we were sort of just hanging out. I'm not sure too many people came after 1, but we stayed until 2 anyway. But it's always a good thing to do. We really should have a better program, but we just don't have Public Works or whoever to do this stuff. We could start a nursery. We tried that 1 year, and the things we planted them out at the Joe Palea Park. think probably before it was called Joe Player Park. And, but we never really dug them up and planted them anywhere. So it became a sort of a forested area, you know. And now with the deer and how hungry they are, you have to provide some kind of protection for anything you plant, because there are no such things as seedlings. If you go into the park and walk around and you look at the woods, there's usually any normal healthy woods has seedlings coming up and everything. There are no such things coming up in the Joe Player Park's woods.
Right, there's no understory. There's no understory in the park, and that's gonna be an issue in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, or beyond that, correct. Someone, I forget who was telling me, someone else came who knew things, was driving down Deal Road and just looked at the park, just look as they were driving by and said, "Oh, you have a deer problem." Just from that.
Yeah, that was 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. Hasn't gotten better. So, yeah. But I think the whole program has been a good program over the years.
Yes.
The thing I'd really like to know is how many of those trees really became trees. So,
We'd be lucky if it's 10%.
yeah, that would be good. Although I tell people not to just plant them in the ground if they can, or especially if they take a bunch of them, to get like 3-gallon containers, like you buy a plant in, thing that looks like a small buck kind of a thing. Plant them in there so you could put them together so you can water them more easily and so on and so forth, to protect them from deer and everything. And then when they get bigger, plant them out where you want them and then protect them again from the deer. But they got I think it's better chance of survival than if you just plant them in the ground, which they'll still survive if they're not molested.
Norm, how long does it take for one of the seedlings to mature into, an adult tree? Like 2 to 5 years, or?
Well, turns out one of the things that I got about 3 or 4 years ago was a Salem oak seedling. The Salem oak was this giant oak that has its own website, okay? That's from pre-colonial times in Salem, New Jersey. Unfortunately, that tree, some number of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it went down. But they had a bazillion acorns from that tree. So the forestry nursery gave out. So I've got somewhere, which probably would take me a while to find, you got a certificate, this was a Salem oak seedling and all that sort of stuff, right? So I put it in a pot and I grew it up bigger and so on and so forth. Now it's in a much bigger pot, what you call a 15-gallon container. And coming out of the container, now it's maybe as tall as I am, but it's in a container that's maybe 18 inches high or 20 inches high or so. So it's it's gotten to maybe let's call it 4 to 5 feet. And I intend one of these days to have an event where we plant the Salem oak seedling in Joe Player Park somewhere. But right now it's still only as thick as like the trunk of the tree is still only maybe not. I don't think it's quite an inch big, But it's big enough that you could plant it. But you'd have to build a structure around it to keep it safe and so on and so forth.
Gotcha.
And that was, so. But once they get established, they do grow reasonably, but they're still not going to be a tree. Like if you go to a nursery and buy a tree that says like a 2-inch in diameter tree, that thing's been there for, So they actually grow them pretty quick because they're feeding them properly. They're doing everything they've got to do, so they can get them to grow pretty quickly. But if you just naturally have one in the ground, that could still, I don't know, maybe it could get to be a big that tree. I don't know, but I've never really thought about it. 7 or 8 years, maybe more. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I should ask that question. I honestly don't know. Yeah. So, but it's a good thing to do, But the selections they have right now, I'm kind of disappointed in state forestry nurseries selections for this year. I think part of their problem is that overall, over the years, the state, they've been underfunded, or they can't, or even if they had funding, they can't get enough people to come and work there.
Well, you can always remember the old saying, you don't plant trees for yourself, you plant trees for your grandchildren.
That's correct. But we can't ask our grandchildren what they'd like yet, many people, if you know what I mean. So you have to make a decision and put it somewhere and try to take care of it. That's the key thing. You know, and some are bigger than
It
others.
would be good for the instructions for planting the trees would include the fact that people should plant them in a pot first and then transplant them when the tree gets strong enough.
Well, well, they don't have to be. I mean, so there's instructions that we get from there's instructions that the forestry nursery and other places have generally for planting a tree, right? But it's sort of this, but the rules are still the same. And I try to mention that to people that come and get them from here. But you're right. Maybe we should create our own separate little sheet to document the kind of things that we've been giving out. And don't forget, we've given away a seedling to every third grader for about 40 years, 30 or 40 years, I think, maybe more. So I wonder how many of those is, how well those things have done.
You know what would kind of be cool would to have like Facebook or social media where people that have had these trees, taken the seedlings and planted them, like pictures of what they look like now. Because 40 years ago, I mean, wow, we could have amazing trees. And I say this because my husband actually planted a tree with his Boy Scout troop. This is at least 40 years ago. And every time we walk through Palea Park, he shows me that tree, and he's very proud of it because it's huge. So I think that would be so cool to have that, just because
right. I had the same thought. We're talking about putting things on the town's website, right? I think that would be a good one to talk to Tracy about.
And I think
people who got third grade trees, to tell us about it and their experience and how is it today and so on and so forth. I think that would be a very
because you know what it means. It has value and it means something to these people because now they're 30 years 40 years later they see that tree and it reminds them of that the third grade or fourth grade class and the people that they went to school with, and it brings up memories, and I think that's a beautiful kind of memory to have. So I will talk to Tracy about that, or do you want to, Norm? I don't want to step on toes.
No, I think that would be an excellent thing to start with. Now one of the things I learned when we were doing the community forestry management plan and other things, that Arbor Day, they're big on Arbor Day programs. Now this time, many years ago, there was a giveaway to the third graders, I think, at the road that leads to what used to be where the mulch pile used to be. Right there at that corner, there's a little shed there. We had a thing, and we gave out little seedlings to kids who showed up that day, and so on and so forth, and everything. And that was an Arbor Day type of a program. Matter of fact, I want to try and talk to the schools when we give them all the third graders stuff. I'm just curious what exactly kind of program, other than give out the seedlings, what the schools are actually doing with it. Because I know some of the people, I don't know if people know Megan Edson, but she's very big in the middle school. About they've got a nursery, a garden there, and other things that they're doing over there. And but when we give out the third graders to the three elementary schools, the question is, what do they have a program or not? And if they don't, we should. Like if they ask, because one of the things they ask in these annual reports is, what was your Arbor Day program? And so on and so forth. And when we're going to plant, we should plant a specific tree in a specific place every year, have a program and so on and so forth would be a good thing to do also, so it's all all those kind of things we probably could get a little more active in doing.
Norm, remember that Ken had to redesign his backyard because of one of the tubulings that his daughter planted. I think that tree finally died, 30 years later, but still.
It's possible, he probably was, blaming himself since he was part of those giveaways, they had. But, no good deed goes unpunished, they say.
Mhm.
That must have been one of them. But, what can I say? Okay. Does anyone have anything else they want to discuss specifically?
Norm, can you go over the seedlings that are available for the 3rd grade?
Well, I don't currently have right in front of me thing, but give me 1 second here. Let me go through this.
And what date will they be given out to the 3rd graders?
Well, the 3rd graders get them. Historically, it's been the Arbor Day week. That same thing. When I would get the
Okay.
when I get the seedlings, the week before Arbor Day, theoretically, is when I get them, and then that's sort of the time they want to do something, and then I get them. I usually wind up ones for the school system. I usually wind up putting by the middle school on this west side of the parking lot. There's a shed kind of thing there, and then they pick them up. I coordinate that with Pat Sullivan, and then they distribute them to the schools from there usually. Although 1 year I was away, and when I ordered them from this other nursery, because the other nursery wasn't going to have anything. I think they got. I had to be out of town too, so they wound up being shipped to him at the high school, and he got them distributed. But
Okay.
it's the idea is for it to be sort of an Arbor Day program. That's why I'm curious to see what they actually do. Give me 1 second while Moshe was asking that question. Let me just quickly go
Yes.
to the
And if you
state.
do need help,
Website.
bringing them over to the school or whatever, let me know. I'd be more than happy to help.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's see. Let me do this. Let's see.
Does anybody know what's happening over at Fireman's Pond? I came by today and it was pretty much empty.
Which pond?
Fireman's Pond.
I saw that, Steve. I know nothing. I guess we'll find out in the environmental commission meeting.
I was a little surprised to see that it was
Empty.
It says the dredging of Fireman's Pond on the website. It looks like the dredging is going to start March 16th, so I don't know if that's part of why it's empty. I don't know. Going to.
Here we go.
So Arbor Day is Friday, April 24th this year.
Right. Yeah. Now, so the tubelings, they only had northern red oaks. The things that are still available in tubelings, it says are northern red oaks, white oaks, chestnut oaks, shortleaf pine, pitch pine, and loblolly pine. The only other things they were growing was swamp white oak, eastern redbud, and gray birch, which are out of stock. Okay. So that's what I was saying. They used to have many, 20, 30, 25 different trees. Oh, and they also have hemlock in 3-inch pots. But hemlock are, first of all, they're pricier. But other than that, hemlocks have a problem with an insect called the woolly adelgid. That means you got to treat them, eventually, even though they're beautiful evergreens, you have to treat them annually or biannually, whatever it is. So it's not something that you want to just give out to regular people anyway. So that's what they have. That's why I'm thinking of possibly using another nursery or something. And so we'll have to see what we do. So, but we're gonna have to, but I'm gonna have to order these before too long because it's, it's only 6 weeks from now or so that we'd be giving them out. All right, let's go back to the meeting. The third grade thing. So one of those would be the third grade things that we would give out. Now I got to find out. They may have some other program. They've historically had some other program, and I thought I asked whether they were going to have a third grade program, and they said no. But now when I looked just now, it still had some kind of third grade thing. So I got to call and find out if maybe they've got some other thing going on that I was unaware of. This year I asked Pat Sullivan. Let's see, he told me, I forget what the number was, but I think it was a little over 200 third graders this year. Okay, so all right, so no one, I guess none of we barely made our quorum today. So at least we did get a meeting in. And okay, so then it was actually one other thing. And that's what the other thing was. Okay, so Donna.
Excuse me, Norm.
Yes.
Gene emailed me and said he was unable to figure out GoTo platform, so
Right.
he won't be here.
Right. Yeah. I can definitely bond with that possibility.
Yes.
Of course, maybe it's the same thing. It used to just clicking it used to work all the other times we did this. So we'll have to figure out what happened there. But the thing I was going to,
I still had no problem.
This is the thing I was going to say. So it turns out our April meeting is, what's the date of our April meeting as of now, Donna? Right, we moved it to the 9th.
Let me look. I believe it's the 9th, Norm.
See,
Let me look on the
We moved
website.
it to the 9th. We moved it to the 9th because Thursday was the first day of Passover. Okay.
Right.
As it turns out, I guess I didn't look at my phone, or it was done whatever. But it turns out the 9th is sort of also, well, it's still Passover until it's the last day of Passover. So Passover is not actually over until after sundown on the 9th.
When does it start, Norm?
It starts the evening of the the day before, the evening before, like it starts the evening of April 1st would be the start.
Oh.
Okay, it starts on Wednesday evening would be when it starts, which is why I'm not bowling on that Wednesday. Okay? And it doesn't end until after sundown or so the next Thursday. And pay attention to. But that means I wouldn't be attending. Okay. And
So you would need to have somebody.
Well, I'm just
That's
saying.
a tough one.
It's something we have to think about. Of course, I'm going to bring it up again at the Environmental Commission meeting also. And maybe the real date we should have picked.
Would we be able to postpone it until April 16th?
Well, that's what people will have to discuss. Maybe we have to backtrack on the Shade Tree Commission date when we talk to everyone on the other one.
Hopefully the taxes are done and sent.
Yeah, well, if they're not sent by the evening of the 16th, what's another day after that?
Hopefully the 15th. The 15th.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So if on the 16th, if they're not done by then, another day isn't going to make any difference.
Gotta file for an extension.
Right. Anyway, so we'll have to figure some of those things out. Okay, so we're sort of at the end. Does anyone have anything else to add?
No,
Okay.
I think it's
Okay,
about time to move for adjournment.
Okay, so Moshe, Steve moved for adjournment.
I
Ken's
vote
here now
yes.
too. Okay, you
Okay, thank you,
Well,
Moshe.
okay, but you want to have a second it, Moshe. After you second it, then vote
Okay,
yes.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning? Aye. Okay.
Okay,
we're
carry.
done.
Everybody.
Okay, so everyone can
We
breathe
just-
Thanks, Norm.
for
Thank
another
you,
meeting.
everyone.
We have no meeting to do it. Okay, Moshe, thanks for joining us.